Hello everyone, welcome back to another election prediction video. Thank you all for 40 subscribers. Remember to leave a like and subscribe so I can build this community. With that being said, this is the 40 subscribe special. It is another general election prediction. We're going to fill out all of the safe states for Donald J. Trump. These states are going to be won by Trump pretty much no matter what happens in this election. Unless Trump utterly imploded, he is not going to lose or be even close to losing a single one of these states that I just filled out. And we're going to include Ohio and Texas for the sake of things. They will both probably go to Trump by about 10%. Now, with that being said, that should be all the safe states for Donald Trump. South Carolina, of course. Florida is a maybe. There is a chance it goes to Trump by plus 10, but it's probably going to go to Trump by about plus 6 or 7. There's a chance that happens if the Trump campaign does really, really well until the election, but most likely it is not going to happen. And so now what we're going to do is do the same thing, except for the Democrats. We're going to fill in all of these states that are 100% going to be won by the Democratic Party. I'm actually going to leave New Jersey out of this. We'll get to that later. Colorado, New Mexico, California, Oregon, and Washington. Illinois, Minnesota, maybe. I'm not going to classify it as safe. Tim Walz pretty much is going to have that state in lock. Whether or not I like it, of course, New York is going to be safe. Sometimes Trump does better than expected in New York. And he's always talked in the past about maybe winning New York someday. But as it stands, New York is going to go to Harris by over 10%. And of course in Maine, not Maine at large, just that particular district of Maine. Now, Hawaii as well. With that being said, these are the states that will decide the election. We will do the the likely Republican states first, and so we have likely Florida. Florida is definitely going to Trump. It would even be safe, but for now it is likely based on the polls. Just based on the polls, honestly, that's about it. The trend in the state is red. Everything about the state right now is red, especially with Trump on the ballot and DeSantis supporting Trump. It is going to be an easy win for Donald J. Trump in the state. Now, for the likely Democratic states, we have New Jersey and we have Minnesota. Minnesota could be argued that it's not a likely Democratic state. I think that when Biden was still running, Trump could have maybe won Minnesota. It was about 50-50 in my opinion. Trump probably would have ended up winning it, as well as Virginia, actually. But now with Kamala Harris, the base Democrat support has kind of flocked back, and especially with Tim Walz being the Democratic vice presidential nominee, and he's from Minnesota, governor of Minnesota, did a bad job, but he is still from the state of Minnesota. That will give a lot of support to Kamala Harris. Kind of locks down the state for her. New Jersey, no real explanation needed. The only thing is, Trump polls better in the state than all the other deep blue states over here. He usually keeps it within 10 points. Now, with that being said, we will move on to the lean states. And first of all, North Carolina is going to be lean for Donald J. Trump. I know the polls have it pretty close right now, but at the end of the day, he is going to win it by about 3%. Anywhere in the range of 2 to 4%, really. And that does sound pretty close, especially if it is 2%. But Donald J. Trump is going to win the state of North Carolina. I think even if the polls have him down, which they don't, the RCP average has him ahead in North Carolina. Even if the polls were to have him down, he would outperform. He always outperforms in North Carolina. They always say he's going to lose North Carolina, and then he wins North Carolina fairly easily. It was like pretty close in 2020, plus 1.2% or something like that for Trump over Biden. But this election, the nationwide shift is going to be plus 1 or plus 2 to 3% in favor of the Republicans. That's easily enough to keep North Carolina. And just for now, in the state of the race, Virginia is also going to be a lean state for Kamala Harris. Again, when Biden was in the mix, I would have given Virginia a 60-40% chance, 60% chance Biden wins it, 40% chance Trump wins it. If the election were held back then, right around when Biden was about to drop out. Now, of course, had Biden stayed in, it could have gotten even worse for him, and maybe Trump could have flipped those odds in his favor. But now, with Kamala Harris as the VP, I give Virginia about an 80% chance of going to her. It's going to be probably within about 3 to 4%, maybe as low as 2%. It might reflect roughly on North Carolina. It's like the Democratic version of North Carolina. Sometimes Republicans think they can win it. They won the governorship. Sometimes they think they can win it electorally, but Trump probably isn't going to win it unless something drastic happens. And the debate is coming up in like 12 days. And maybe that is going to be the drastic thing that changes the state of the race. But we will see. As of now, that has not yet happened. Now, the next state is going to be New Hampshire. Just simply based, it's the same situation as Virginia, just simply based on the current state of the race, on the current polling, on the current climate, on the current hype that the Democratic Party has right now. New Hampshire is going to be won by Kamala Harris. It's going to be close. Trump could flip it, but for now, it is still in the Harris column. Now, these next states are all very, very hard to call, but I have one more to call, and that is Nevada. Nevada is going to be won in the lean category, especially with RFK Jr. dropping out and endorsing Donald J. Trump. Well, he hasn't technically dropped out. He's still on the ballot in a lot of states, but he has suspended or paused his campaign and endorsed Donald J. Trump. He has a lot of support in this state, as well as Arizona. We'll get to that later. And in Nevada, it's going to be probably about 2.5 plus for Donald J. Trump over Kamala Harris. The state has been trending to the Republican Party for the last 8 years. For the last several election cycles, I don't think anything is going to change, especially if the nationwide sentiment is a plus 2% or so gain for the Republicans. Then Nevada is definitely going to be one of the states that Republicans overperform in, and it is going to be lean for Donald J. Trump. Now, every single other state is going to be tilt, and we have the RFK factor. I forgot about Maine at large, that is going to be lean, but the RFK factor is in support of Trump, and he is going to help out the most in Arizona, and so I feel the most confident about calling Arizona for Trump, maybe even lean for Trump. We'll get to that later on in this election cycle, but for now it is tilt for Trump. It'll probably be won by Trump by about 1%, and that RFK endorsement really is helping him out a lot in Arizona. The latest poll had Trump up by like 3 points. Another one came out that had Harris up by 1. But you get the average of those two polls, and Trump is still leading by like 1.5%. And so he's probably going to win the state by like 1.5%. It's going to be tilt. It's going to be fairly close. But the RFK endorsement, RFK had like 7% in the state in total. It is really, really going to help out for Donald J. Trump. And we'll just get Nebraska's 2nd congressional district out of the way. Probably going to be tilt for Kamala Harris as it stands. We have had some polling finally from this particular part of Nebraska, and it does have Harris on average up by like 3 to 5%. So she is probably going to end up winning it if the election were held today. Again, this is if the election were held today, not in 2 months. Now, the most important states of this election, and for me, the easiest out of these to call is Pennsylvania. It is going to be tilt for Donald J. Trump, especially with the fact that Kamala Harris did not choose Josh Shapiro to be her running mate. I think if she had chosen him, it could have been a lot different, maybe even favorable for Kamala, or just a straight up tie in the state. But with Tim Walz as the running mate, it probably angered a lot of Pennsylvanians that like Josh Shapiro, that were kind of in the independent moderate zone, and they're going to prefer Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. And we have all the polling from Pennsylvania, all of the big polling firms. I know Red Eagle Politics did a poll in Pennsylvania where Trump was up by 1. They all have Trump up by 1. And in 2020, Pennsylvania was extremely accurate. RCP had Biden leading by 1.2%. Biden won by 1.2%. And right now, Trump is winning in the last 4 polls by 1%. So he's probably going to win the state by about 1%. And the white working class is going to turn out for him there anyways. Now, the next state I could call is Georgia. I know a lot of people are kind of, especially I watch Red Eagle Politics sometimes. He's not sure about Georgia. I'm pretty confident about Georgia, especially with the governor now agreeing to help Trump out. And Trump is doing very well in the polling in Georgia. By election night, he's probably going to be up in the polls by like 1.5%, just based on the trends. And he's probably going to end up winning the state by 0.5%. I do see the Democrats overperforming the polls in Georgia. And Trump will probably end up winning it very closely, probably by about the same amount as Biden won it. back in 2020. And the reason why I'm calling this state over Wisconsin is really only because of the polls. Because the polls have Trump up in Georgia right now. But Wisconsin, I think, could even be a lean state for Donald J. Trump. And I'm actually going to classify it as that for now. Because on average, Trump overperforms in Wisconsin by about 6%. And this election, he's only down by 2% rather than like 5 to 8% in the last two election cycles. So if he's only down by 1 to 2% in peak Democrat season, which is August, he's probably going to overperform the polls even more than that. He's probably going to catch up in the polls, first of all, and then still probably overperform the polls as that white working class blue collar vote turns out for him. And he's going to win the state of Wisconsin. And now, Michigan is the one and only state I cannot call. My gut tells me Kamala Harris is going to win it. My logical side thinks that Trump is going to win it, seeing as these three states almost always vote in alignment together. But it would certainly be the closest one. And I really can't tell who's going to win it at the moment. For the sake of this video, I am still going to have, like in my last previous election videos, Kamala Harris up in Michigan, but barely, very marginal. And the RFK endorsement could certainly help out Donald J. Trump in the state of Michigan. Now, with that being said, this is my new 40 subscriber special, brand new, solely focused election prediction map. Generally speaking, in every single video, I do a little bit of election prediction and pull out the map. So I'm tired right now. It's like 5 a.m. in the morning. But with that being said, this is the sole focus of the video, the election prediction. And I haven't done a pure election prediction focus in quite some time. With that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a nice day. And remember to leave a like and subscribe.